One man quietly built the invisible foundation underneath modern civilization, and most people still think he just sells things online. This is not a success story, this is something far more unsettling. Jeff Bezos wasn't chasing a dream, he was executing a plan, and by the time the world understood what that plan actually was, it was already too late to stop it. In 1994, Bezos walked away from a six-figure salary at one of Wall Street's most secretive hedge funds, not out of desperation, not out of idealism, but because he had seen one number that changed everything. Internet usage was growing at 2,300% per year. He pulled out a legal pad and started listing the products that could dominate an online market. Books won, not because he loved books, because books were the perfect Trojan's horse. Low cost, infinite variety, easy to ship, and completely unthreatening to every major retailer on earth. Nobody saw what was hidden inside. He got in a car, his wife Mackenzie drove, and Bezos typed the business plan on a laptop, somewhere between New York and Seattle. The world had no idea what was arriving. The early Amazon was designed to look small, intentionally. A humble online bookstore, nothing threatening, nothing worth watching closely. But underneath that surface, Bezos was collecting something far more valuable than revenue. He was collecting behavioral data, every click, every hesitation, every abandoned cart, a living, growing map of human consumer psychology that became more powerful with every single transaction. By 1997, Amazon went public at a valuation of $438 million. Analysts were politely skeptical. The company had never turned a profit, and Bezos wasn't just unbothered. He was proud of it. Reinvest everything. Build infrastructure. Expand the moat. Profit in his framework was a distraction from dominance. Traditional retailers laughed. Then they stopped laughing. But here is what almost no documentary tells you about this era. And it is the detail that reframes everything that came after. While Amazon was burning cash expanding its warehouse network, it was simultaneously building a logistics and technology backbone so advanced, it had no competitor anywhere on Earth. This wasn't retail strategy, this was infrastructure colonization. And by the time anyone realized it, Amazon didn't just own a piece of the market, it owned the road every other business had to travel on. Then came the moment that should have ended it all. The year 2000, the dot-com bubble collapsed, billions evaporated overnight, and Amazon's stock fell 94%, from $113 to just $6 a share. Employees left, investors panicked, suppliers grew nervous, and one magazine cover simply read, Amazon.bomb. The press had already written the obituary, but what happened next shocked everyone who thought they understood this story. Bezos didn't slow down. He restructured, cut waste without cutting vision, and in the ruins of the dot-com collapse, while competitors were dying by the hundreds, Amazon quietly acquired talent, technology, and market position at historic lows. The crash wasn't a catastrophe for Bezos, it was a clearance sale. By 2005, Amazon Prime launched, $99 per year for unlimited free 2-day shipping. Inside Amazon, senior executives ran the numbers and called it financially reckless, convinced the shipping costs alone would bleed the company dry. They were wrong about the math because they were solving the wrong equation entirely. Bezos understood that the moment a customer pays for Prime, their entire decision-making process rewires. They stop price comparing, they stop browsing competitors, they feel a quiet psychological pull to justify the subscription by buying more. Prime wasn't a shipping deal, it was a loyalty architecture, a behavioral trap disguised as a bargain. Today, Prime has over 200 million paid subscribers, and the average member spends $1,400 per year on Amazon compared to $600 for non-members. One product decision, hundreds of billions in locked consumer behavior annually. But the move that made Amazon truly untouchable happened quietly, inside a data center, away from any retail headline. In 2006, Amazon Web Services launched, cloud computing infrastructure available to any company in the world, on demand, pay as you go. It seemed bizarre at the time. Why would an online bookstore enter the server business? Because Bezos had seen what nobody else was willing to accept. Every company on Earth was about to migrate its entire operation to the internet, and every single one of them would need computing infrastructure they couldn't afford to build themselves. Amazon was going to be the invisible foundation underneath all of it.
Today, AWS controls approximately 31% of the entire global cloud market and generates more operating profit than Amazon's whole retail operation combined. The store was always the distraction, the cloud was the empire. And that empire now runs silently underneath companies you use every single day, including, in many cases, Amazon's own direct competitors. Netflix runs on Amazon's servers. The CIA uses Amazon's cloud. Governments across the Western world have signed multi-billion-dollar contracts with AWS. Amazon doesn't just compete in markets. In many cases, it owns the infrastructure those markets depend on to exist. And still, it kept expanding. Whole Foods, Ring doorbell cameras, Alexa voice assistants installed in tens of millions of homes, Amazon Pharmacy, its own delivery network that quietly made UPS and FedEx increasingly irrelevant, Amazon MGM Studios, producing your entertainment, and Project Kuiper, Amazon's own constellation of satellites being launched into orbit to deliver global internet access from space, directly competing with Elon Musk's Starlink for control of the sky itself. But here is where the story takes its darkest turn. The same platform hosting over 2 million third-party sellers also competes directly against those sellers, using their own sales data to do it. Amazon identifies which products are performing best, manufactures near-identical versions under its own private label brands, then promotes those versions above the original seller in search results. Businesses that built everything on Amazon's platform found themselves losing to Amazon itself. On Amazon's platform, powered by their own data, with no right of appeal and no place left to go. In 2019, European regulators formally launched antitrust investigations, and in 2020, Jeff Bezos sat before the United States Congress as lawmakers pressed him on anti-competitive practices, data exploitation, and worker conditions. He was careful, measured, and largely unreadable. The investigations continued. The company kept growing. Amazon's warehouse workers, over 1.5 million globally, report injury rates significantly above industry averages, with surveillance systems tracking productivity by the second and quotas so demanding that workers describe skipping bathroom breaks just to survive their shift. The company that promised to be Earth's most customer-centric organization built much of its physical empire on a workforce that regulators, labor unions, and independent investigators have repeatedly called exploitative. In 2021, Bezos stepped down as CEO, handed control to Andy Jassy, and retreated to a super yacht so large it required a separate support vessel just to carry his personal helicopter, having become the thing he once seemed too focused to notice becoming, a monument to concentrated power in an age that is only beginning to question what that power actually costs. So here is the question this documentary cannot answer for you. Only you can. Amazon genuinely lowered prices for hundreds of millions of people, created hundreds of thousands of jobs, gave small businesses access to global markets they could never have reached alone, and built the technology infrastructure that quietly powers the modern internet. These things are real. And yet, it also built a system where your purchases fund surveillance of your own behavior, where the platform you depend on competes against you using your own information, where the servers your company runs on are owned by the same company your company competes with, and where opting out is no longer a real choice for most businesses or most consumers. Jeff Bezos started with a cardboard box and a folding table in a garage in Bellevue, Washington. 30 years later, there is almost no corner of the global economy, no screen you look at, no package you receive, no server your data lives on, no voice assistant listening in your home, that his company does not touch. The question was never whether Amazon was good or bad. The real question is this: at what point does a company stop being a business and start being the infrastructure of civilization itself? And if we have already crossed that line, who gave them permission? And more importantly, can it ever be taken back?